There's a lot of things in this world that make us feel uncomfortable. Ghosts, goblins, James Corden, Steven Tyler.
What the f is that? Some kind of weird soccer mom looking Goonie monster?
But never have I ever seen a television show more uncomfortable than Benny Safdie's new show, The Curse.
Just because I said exactly what Lisa told me to say! You're breaking it! I said the sentence and you're not doing it!
What's going on, everybody? It's your crazy Uncle Crackpot here, and today I'm really excited to talk about the most unsettling show on television, The Curse.
I curse you.
Okay. Being a heavily character-driven slow burn, The Curse depicts the lives of three morally gray individuals who masquerade as good people, hiding their ugly, authentic selves under the guise of do-goodery. The show is also an interesting look into social situations today, watching the characters embrace the awkward social norms of everyday society. Aside from that, however, The Curse as a whole is pretty abstract, and a lot of what happens in the show is up for interpretation. Are the characters themselves cursed, or are they a curse upon the struggling community they're trying to help?
Our focus is on Espanola.
I see.
In terms of filmmaking, The Curse feels reminiscent of Benny's other work on Good Time and Uncut Gems, and the panic-inducing style popularized by him and his brother is noticeably turned down a notch in favor of making you feel something else entirely. In my eyes, The Curse is exactly what a prestige television show looks like, but unfortunately it seems like a lot of audiences don't see it that way. Evidently, The Curse exists in this weird realm where it seems like a lot of people are missing the point of the show entirely, dropping it only after an episode or two. Judging by the audience review scores, it's painfully obvious that this show won't appeal to most people. But I'm not most people. I'm a f***ing crackpot, and The Curse is a tasteful 10-episode course that I've had the pleasure of enjoying on a week-to-week basis. And despite what some audience review scores might say, this show is secretly incredible.
That was so beautiful.
Fair warning though, The Curse is not for the faint of heart, and I personally recommend going in with a strong stomach because the show will certainly make your skin crawl. Spread out across 10 episodes, The Curse pacing-wise isn't in a rush to go anywhere, and the show shines brightly being an uncomfortable but entertaining slow burn. To briefly recap, the show explores how an alleged curse disturbs the relationship of an out-of-touch newlywed couple as they attempt to fix a struggling community through the fabricated reality of HGTV. On the surface, this is exactly what this show was marketed as, but surprisingly, The Curse goes much deeper than that.
So if I wanted one of your guys shirtless in the weight room, is that a conversation I should have, or could you do that?
I mainly love this show because it's an insane collaboration between two people who I have a lot of respect for. First and foremost, there's Benny Safdie, one half of the Safdie brothers, and a talented actor-director who brings his erratic, guerrilla-style filmmaking to the show, making it feel more grounded in reality. Benny also peeled the curtain back and uploaded some footage that illustrated how the show would look and feel early in development. The footage has a weird but raw sense of realism that perfectly suits the invasive nature of the show's cinematography. It's a rather unusual choice stylistically to shoot the show this way, but the look and feel of The Curse is easily one of my favorite aspects overall.
And the look of it, we spent so long on that, trying to get it to look a specific way. It's HD, you know, in this world of 4K, the fact that like we snuck that through is crazy to me. But it does, everything looks the same. Everything looks the same when you watch it. Everything is crisp, everything is beautiful, and this was kind of a reaction to that in a lot of ways. You know, this can't look like or sound like anything that you've seen on television.
The other half of The Curse is a wild card in the truest sense of the word, and it's my man Pots and Pans Nathan Fielder. For those who don't know who Nathan is, let me quickly break it down for you.
Where I'm living now, my roommate doesn't believe in Jesus. When Jesus clearly stated that.
Is that a problem?
And yeah, it's a problem for me.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
What are you stepping to?
Squash it.
What are you stepping to?
Squash it.
What are you stepping to, bro?
Squash
What
it.
are you stepping to?
What the f does that mean?
What's up?
What's up?
You're stepping to me, bro.
And what's up?
What's up?
I'm right here. Cross the line then. Why you keep tripping on me? Quit tripping on me, bro.
God bless you, bro.
Good then.
What was that about? I'm just telling him the truth, and this demon doesn't like the truth.
Nathan Fielder is a niche comedian with an awkward personality who seamlessly blends reality and fiction.
Patrick frequently cited changing his grandpa's diaper in his final years as evidence of why he deserved his inheritance.
I changed his diapers, dude. You never changed his diapers. Whenever he went to the bathroom, he'd call me and say, hey, I need to change my underwear, or boxers. I'm over there wiping Grandpa's ass, dude, while we're watching Dragon Ball Z.
Nathan is no stranger to television, having 2 shows of his own that mainly rely on placing real people in intriguing situations and capturing their authentic reactions through his awkward personality.
And we're both interested in realism and reality TV. I think I'll come at it from more of a fiction side, trying to make fiction very real, and he'll make real life feel like fiction. Yeah. And so it's kind of a perfect marriage.
Nathan brings his trademark awkward but situational humor to The Curse, and his personality alone adds a lot to the uncomfortable atmosphere. Together, Benny and Nathan create this eerily foreboding environment that'll make you cringe, combined with a lot of long takes and long shots that feel unsettling to watch from an audience perspective.
It's, it's like creepy. It's like I'm spying.
Visually, The Curse employs a lot of perverted long shots that make you feel like a creepy stalker spying on real people from a distance, despite them being entirely fictional. The unconventional framing often has shots where the camera is placed outside, looking inside on the action through a window, or vice versa with the camera placed inside, looking at the action going on outside. Admittedly, the cinematography in The Curse is in fact unorthodox, but most of the shots inspire a weird sense of curiosity, treating the camera equally like an important character in the overall narrative.
Here, let me get out and you can do it and I'll meet you around the corner, okay? Oh, fuck, sorry, I dented it. You're against a wall. It's fine, there's probably not a scratch there.
On the music end of things, The Curse employs a surprisingly powerful synth-based score by John Medeski, and it greatly lends itself to the ambiance of the show. A lot of films are designed to make you feel something about what's going on in a scene, to represent the scene, to create the emotional impact of the scene. And Nathan and Benny wanted this series to be very dialogue-driven and story-driven, and to have the music actually be like another observer providing a perspective. They didn't want any music to be too obvious. Sometimes the music is misleading to what's going on in the scene even, and I love that. The score itself is capable of sounding sweet and innocent, but oftentimes it's mainly unnerving to listen to.
Sorry, I don't have that information quite for
Hi.
you.
Hi guys, I'm Whitney, I'm the host. Hi. Thank you for coming out on such short notice.
The dark horse of The Curse from an acting side of things is clearly Emma Stone, and she also brings another dimension to the show entirely. She's an absolute whirlwind as Whitney Siegel, from the way she carries herself to everything she was doing with her face, displaying a multitude of visceral emotions. Her performance as Whitney is remarkably complex, but only if you look deep into what the show is actually trying to say about her.
Whitney really feels like she's trying really hard to do kind of the right thing, and there are these pressures around her that are on everyone that are so the norm that you don't really think about it unless it's like seen like in a show like this. Really,
you fought the good fight to be where you are today, here on this plate. May your spirit be free as I eat your delicious body. Rest now and join your brothers and sisters in the next life. I hope.
You know what's the right thing to do. You know what you're supposed to be saying, posting, doing in a circumstance, and yet you don't necessarily feel it all the way in your bones because you want everybody to think, she was fascinating to play.
His mom. Oh, Ashley. Oh, you're so sweet. Oh, wow. Nice to meet you. Who's this? Who's this? You care about people so much. You're such an angel.
Nathan Fielder plays her husband, Asher Siegel, and their chemistry is the backbone that holds the entire show together. One character doesn't work without the other, and they complement each other very well here. On the acting side of things, I give Nathan a lot of credit for playing an absolute creep, and he surprisingly had a lot of range in the show. There were moments where I felt sorry for him, or even moments where I was downright scared of him. He goes to some terrifying lengths in The Curse, and he was outstanding in his first dramatic acting role.
So let's talk about us, okay? Look at me when I'm talking to you, okay? Don't look at her. I'm the one talking, so you should look at me. Because when you don't look at me, it makes me feel like you're not listening and not registering the things I'm saying. It's just common courtesy. It's a little rude to do.
Last but not least is Benny Safdie playing Dougie, the producer of the HGTV show, and an alcoholic with a tragic past. However, in spite of his tragedy, he still chooses to be a dickhead. As expected, Benny Safdie knocks it out of the park with his harrowing performance, and the character Dougie's just as complex as Whitney and Asher. From an acting perspective, the curse is stacked with talent, and the three-dimensional characters feel even more authentic thanks to the uncomfortably lifelike performances.
So what else might surprise me?
The curse also transcends many different genres and doesn't exactly lock itself down to one specific thing. Sometimes it's a drama. Then it's a black comedy. Other times it mimics the absurdity of HGTV. The show is a genre-bending experience with a lot of variety, and it surprisingly juggles a lot of different emotions at once. Some moments even feel like they're ripped right out of a horror movie, and I'm directly referring to episode 9, which also happens to be the perfect segue. Beyond this point, I'll be flipping over to the spoiler side of things, so please watch ahead at your own risk.
What the f*** are you doing, Ash?
Are you afraid to get a little wet? Just Gatorade.
The end of episode 9 was particularly shocking because it never should have went that way. Whitney, in typical narcissistic behavior, was trying to cut Asher out of the show, because in actuality, the HGTV show is supposed to be the ultimate representation of who she is as a person. Over the course of the show, Whitney grows tired and disgusted of Asher, unknowingly but narcissistically turning him into a monster of her own making, and by the time she wants him gone, the network says otherwise.
Okay, they told me there's no show if there's no Asher. And they made that point very clear. And there's really nothing I can do about that. So I'm sorry.
Showing him a rough cut of the show where he was seemingly written out looked like the only way to get rid of him, but it horrifically backfired. Being the insecure and flawed person that he is, Asher should be disgusted with the cut material his wife intended for the show, but instead he's alarmingly aroused by it. Like it or not, Whitney needs Asher to get the show off the ground, but in her eyes, he's only weighing her down, in both a metaphorical and a literal sense.
I'm a terrible person. Don't you see? There's not some curse. I am the problem. It's not magic. It's me, okay? I'm a bad person, and I've been dragging you down with me, okay?
This should go without saying, but this scene is haunting, and everyone here brought their A game. You got Nathan with his unhinged performance, and Emma with her facial expressions, as her look of pure astonishment quickly evolves into a look of pure fear.
That was beautiful. Really beautiful.
Regarding the finale of The Curse, I'm surprised the show actually had the balls to end the way it did. And as a whole, the show is easily the most polarizing thing I've seen in a long time. It was an ending so crazy, so bizarre, and so unexpected that I could have never guessed it would actually happen. Halfway through the finale, all seems well just before Whitney and Asher are ready to go to bed. Then the next morning, the unexpected happens when Whitney finds Asher sleeping on the ceiling. My initial reaction, and probably everyone else's, was,
"What the f***?
Naturally, I had a lot of questions, and I assumed his current condition was merely a byproduct of passive housing, but as the sequence continues, it's easy to see it's not as simple as that. At first, it's astonishing to see Asher flipped upside down, but that sense of wonder eventually evolves into one of sheer terror. From a filmmaking standpoint, this sequence is incredible, but the physical comedy from both actors is what really sells the illusion. Sticking to the ceiling is such an outlandish thing to see, especially after watching 9 episodes of a show where it seemed like most of it was based in reality. And while much of it is based in reality, this surrealistic moment was in fact foreshadowed time and time again all throughout the series in many different ways. Most notably in episode 10, when Nathan directly foreshadows the ending by speaking openly through Asher.
Because we thought it was a sad thing. And it is a sad thing, but it's also funny too. I mean, sometimes you have to go to extreme lengths to make your point.
By going to the absolute extreme, Nathan and Benny crafted an ending that acts almost like a metaphor for the show in its entirety. And it all starts with the weightless Asher floating on the ceiling.
We are not raising our baby in this house. We can rent and then you can convert it. We are not moving back in here to live. We are just not.
Being stuck on the ceiling is a peculiar thing no less, but imagine going outside and realizing that it's more than that. As Asher rests there stuck on the overhang, the doula arrives and tries to help, but gravity has other terrifying plans. From start to finish, this sequence is a beautiful boiling pot that overwhelms you with fear, making the implausible seem plausible.
I'm slipping! I can't hold on! I'm slipping! I'm slipping!
Grab onto that tree behind me. You see the branch?
I can't!
You can get it!
I'm
Grab
slipping!
the branch! I'm gonna...
As Whitney goes into labor and leaves her big baby behind in the tree, the onlookers who find him up there clearly don't understand the gravity of his situation. The firefighters who were trying to help him are hearing his cries for help, but they're not actually listening to what he's saying. Therefore, how can they help him when they won't even try to understand the spine-chilling situation he's in? The answer is, they won't. And the help he's provided with ultimately dooms him.
No, you don't understand! You have to stop, please! Please, you have to stop! Please!
This is incredible.
You don't understand! Dougie! Dougie! You have to tell them to stop! Dougie, please! Please! I'm begging you! Stop!
Like Asher said in the clip I played earlier, sometimes you have to go to extreme lengths to make your point. And in a metaphorical sense, this is exactly how Whitney and Asher treated the people of Espanola. All they ever did was virtue signal and gentrify a struggling community for their own personal gain. The do-goodery performed on camera was only for the sake of their television show, shrouding the real, ugly versions of themselves behind a transparent veil of bullshit.
The many years of genocide may not be wiped away by this statement, but it's important that we acknowledge it.
Even though they claim their focus was on helping the people of Espanola, they remained ignorant like the firefighters, disregarding the community's genuine cries for help.
I try these gangbangers, thieves coming to steal. You know what the that is? That's cancer, and you guys brought that shit.
With the tables turning on Asher and Whitney being in the hospital, Dougie is the only friend that Asher has right now. However, being the ignorant prick that he is, Dougie disregards Asher's cry for help and ignores the urgency of the situation. His first and only instinct is to humiliate his old friend like he always does, and make a spectacle for TV rather than actually being helpful. Naturally, when the tree branch is cut and Asher flies off into the stratosphere, it's already too late, and Dougie once again finds himself at the center of another heartbreaking tragedy. Meanwhile, Whitney has her baby and can live happily ever after as the Green Queen.
Are you serious?
With all that being said, does the ending make sense? Absolutely. But the show is very abstract in its approach to narrative storytelling, and if the finale didn't make that clear, then I don't know what will. The fact of the matter is that Asher disappears, but how it happens is superfluous in the grand scheme of things. What matters is that he's now absent in Whitney's life, and whether she had something to do with it or not is certainly up for interpretation.
And you won't even have to tell me anymore because I know. And I won't be guessing because I know you, baby. And if you didn't want to be with me and I actually truly felt that, I'd be gone. You wouldn't have to say it. I would feel it and I would disappear.
Although the surrealistic finale of The Curse is easily the weirdest thing about the show, its unconventionally brilliant conclusion has been on my mind for weeks on end, and only a great television show is capable of doing that. Obviously, with an ending as polarizing as this one, there will be many interpretations, and even some interpretations imply that the ending represents the idea of reincarnation, with Asher being reborn as the baby.
And that's a snake there. What does that mean?
The snake signifies rebirth because of the shedding of the skin.
Makes sense.
Regardless of what's actually true, however, this is the kind of ending that will keep people talking, and those are my favorite kind of endings. To wrap things up, I loved the entirety of The Curse from start to finish. This show, without a doubt, is easily one of the greatest things I've watched on a week-to-week basis, and I'm honestly happy that I gave it the time of day. The characters, the acting, the filmmaking, the music, I love everything about this show, and I hope more people find it and enjoy it just like I did. Anyway, these are my thoughts on the newest A24 show, but now I want to hear what you think. Did you like The Curse? Did you hate it? And what did you think about that ending? Whatever the case may be, let me know in the comments below. If you managed to make it this far, thank you so much for watching, subscribe, and...
Next.